If you're somebody that struggles with sales and you feel like maybe it feels a little bit icky, you're kind of timid to do it, or maybe you just don't want to come across as a salesy person, like a car salesman, and that feels icky. Whether you run a product-based business, an e-commerce store, or a service-based business, at some point, you have to cross that threshold of learning to sell. And I want to tell you just my story before I sold $5 million in my own product-based business. Before I sold $5 million in my own product-based business, before celebrities hired me to do their marketing, which I've worked with multiple celebrities now, bringing in millions of dollars into their businesses and running multi-million-dollar e-commerce stores for them. Before I sold out $10,000 of my own product on TikTok in 1 week, before I became an Amazon influencer, selling millions of dollars of product, and before I built my marketing agency, I didn't think I could sell. I thought I was bad at sales. And there's, not a single person out there, I think, that believed that I was going to succeed. And I was quite literally afraid to tell people about my product. So I feel like there's a lot of people that can relate with this and relate with not wanting to push things on people, not wanting to be super salesy, not wanting to, cross somebody's boundary. And if that sounds like you, I'm going to dive into some things that you can utilize. And at the end of this video, I'm going to give you a hack, a ChatGPT hack that's going to help you this week to get more sales. And if you have an e-commerce business, I have something exciting for you that will give you a free strategy to increase your revenue immediately. What you can do, like that blueprint that you need. All right. So let's dive into some of the tips. When I first started to learn how to sell, I wanted to learn from an expert. And I was actually watching that TV show, the behind the scenes millionaires or whatever it is. And I remember seeing this woman on there, and she was a millionaire and she was in sales, and I wanted to learn from her because obviously she has succeeded. And I went out and I got every single thing I could possibly find, scraping eBay, scraping every, thing I possibly could to get all of her stuff. And when I was working at Deloitte, I was in sales and marketing, but I was doing sales and marketing B2B. I was marketing to Jeff Bezos. I was solving Jeff Bezos' problems for a living, right? I was out there trying to help Nike go into new markets and come up with new products. And, I was working with Costco and Eddie Bauer and all of these big businesses, marketing to them. And it was very, very different from a B2C world. And so when I started, I would take her stuff and I would listen to her sales stuff and how to do sales every single morning on the way to work, and every day at lunch. I would go if I drove into work, I would go into the garage and listen in my car. And I remember just thinking, wow, I can't do this, right? But I started to go out and implement what she said, and I started to make sales with ease. And so I want to break down some of these things that I learned, both from her, but also how you could implement these things, take these lessons, put them into social media, put them into email campaigns, put them into webinars, put them into all of the things that you need to do to actually scale your business. First of all, I'm going to cut to the chase, and I'm going to tell you, fundamentally, your success is going to depend on the amount of empathy that you have. And you might think, oh, I know salespeople that aren't very empathetic, okay? But they are strategically empathetic. Think about how they will ask you all of these questions to get all this information so that what? They can present their solutions to solve your problems, right? They're very, very strategic. And I know that this is going to sound weird, but you've got to care about people in order to sell. And a lot of people just think, I need to go out there and make this pitch. I need to go out there and, say the right thing. I need to go out there and manipulate people. But the reality is it's not about manipulation. It's not about pulling the wool over people's eyes. It's actually about caring about people more than you care about your product or service. And that's where most people get tripped up, because maybe you're a scientist and you developed a product and now you sell that product and you're passionate about the ingredients and the science behind that product, but nobody cares. You could be somebody that is the most educated person on this planet, and you go out there and you start to teach and nobody cares. Let's talk about why. Because the reason why you created what you did is not the same reason as why people are going to buy it from you. So if you go out and you create an eye cream, well, I'm not going to buy that eye cream because I'm a scientist and I love the science and that I'm going to just want to study the science and why it works. I want to buy it because it works. I'm going to buy it because facts tell, stories sell. So you told me a really amazing transformational story and it's true. Well, I want it now. I know it's going to solve my problem. So the first thing that I learned was don't talk about the science and don't teach. So what happens with most people is, let's say you're on a sales call and somebody gets on the phone with you and you start talking to them and they start sharing all of their struggles. And what do? You teach. You try to solve the problems on that call. And that is the wrong thing to do because you are not having empathy for that person. What you're doing is you're trying to solve their problems and you're trying to be heard. So you've got to take a step back and you've got to start to listen to them more and increase your empathy by starting to ask more questions. Be curious. Ask them why. Ask them how. Ask them what they've done. Ask them what's worked, what hasn't worked. You wanted to figure out if your product or service is right for them, but also you want to make sure that they understand what it is that you have to offer and if it will actually transform their life or their business or whatever it is that they are trying to solve. When I first started to go out there and sell product for the first time, I was into the science. I got really into the science and I just wanted to teach the science. And I had this big presentation and it was all science. And I would have all these people that would attend. But then I had some testimonials that were mixed in. And what I noticed is that people's eyes were glazed over when I talked about the science, but when I started to talk about the testimonials and I wanted to skip over those, people were like, oh, stop, I've got to read that, right? Because why? Facts tell, stories sell. So when you're going out there and you're posting your product, you're telling. When you post your service, you're telling. You're teaching, you're telling. I'm telling you what this is. I'm not selling because I'm not sharing a testimony. So there's a very, very specific formula that you use even on social media that you start with empathy, right? A hook is empathy. Are you dealing with XYZ? You need to make sure that that person that's reading it goes, oh my gosh, this is my problem. Oh my gosh, they understand me. This is exactly how I feel. And then when you start to talk about what? The story of transformation, whether it's your transformation or somebody else's transformation, that then makes them go, wow, I can actually experience this. You don't go into the details and start teaching how that happens because they don't care. What they care about is the end result. What's the end result that I'm going to get from this? The other thing that you always want to focus on besides your ideal client's problems that they're aware of, because you might say, well, everyone thinks that they have this problem, but the reality is they don't have this problem. They have this problem over here, but they're not aware of this problem that they really have to solve in order to get the result. So what do you have to do? You have to bring them on a journey. You have to bring them on a journey and bring them in with the problem that they're aware of and then bring them to the solution that they actually need. Nobody is going to buy from you if they are not aware that they have that problem. So you have to have empathy, meet them where they're at. Now, this is very, very difficult for most people because you just want them to understand. You just want them to get it, but they're not going to get it. So it's very, very important to bring them on a journey. And I also see this a lot on social media where people will not respect that they need to build relationships with people. I want you to imagine walking into a room and you have the item that you're going to sell, no matter what it is. You have something that you're going to sell. And you go in there and you walk up to every single person in that room and you're like, book a call. Buy now. You're going to be seen as the weirdest person in the world, right? It is equivalent to walking up to somebody in the mall and touching their face. It's weird. You don't have a relationship with those people. They don't know you. You could be a weirdo. And you're walking up to them and you're saying, book a call. And a lot of people do that on social media, especially I see this over on LinkedIn. People will be sending DMs, I want to book a call. And they have not taken the time to what? Have empathy and care about you. Have empathy and care about where you're at. They think that if they post something, that instantly that means that somebody is going to turn into a customer. They're not realizing that they have to build a relationship. They have to build the know, like, and trust factor in order to even be heard, right? So that's what social media is for. Know, like, and trust before I'm ever going to buy. I could be seeing your content 7 times, and that's generally the number of times somebody has to see an ad or somebody has to see a post before they're actually going to even pay attention. So I might see a post from you 7 times and, not do anything about it. But during that time, if you are showing up on video, especially, it's going to help build a relationship. People are going to know, like, and trust you, especially if you're consistent, you're showing up all of the time. Now, I want to mention 2 hacks that you can take with you this week. Number 1 is that if you sell services and you are meeting with people in person and you want to sell, there is a book that is called Never Split the Difference. And it's written by somebody that was in the FBI. And they studied how to make sales and how to always guarantee that they're going to make a sale. And it is essentially on purpose being empathetic. So you're going to go into ChatGPT with the next call that you have with whoever, next meeting with whoever, and maybe you've got an intake form that they've done. You're going to feed that into ChatGPT and you're going to ask it to create sales questions based upon the book Never Split the Difference for you. And what it's going to do is it's going to spit out for you empathetic questions to ask that person. That's the only thing that you're going to talk about during that time with that person. Now, you could hypothetically use this for anything. Anytime you have to sell anything, you're going to be the one that's going to be asking the questions. And you're never going to teach. You're never going to solve a problem. You're just going to have empathy. Okay? And then number 2, those of you that have e-commerce stores, I have a free audit that is going to spit out for you a very, very specialized, personalized audit and marketing strategy for you. All you have to do is go ahead and take the Thrive audit, and it's going to audit where you are at in your business, and it's going to spit out for you exactly what you need to focus on right now to start increasing your revenue. So that's going to be down below and you can check that out. So hopefully you will consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, guys, and we'll see you next week.